Now is not the time for such things. If you're not careful, people might think you are up to something.
Not little me. Hey guys, it's Katie and welcome back to The Letter. In the last episode, we continue with Marianne's chapter, and she's at the library and she runs into Rebecca and they kind of chit-chat for a bit. We get a call from Rose saying to pick up the floor plan, so we head over to BRC and we run into Isabella. And for some weird reason, like, Marianne's being maybe judgmental and being a little bit mean to Isabella. I don't think she understands the situation that Isabella is in with her family. Then we go to the Cash penthouse to meet up with Luke and Hannah, and as we're sitting and waiting for them to come downstairs, we hear a noise coming from the hallway. So I decide to go check it out, and that frickin' ghost girl scared the shit out of me once again. Ugh, oh my god, I was about to have a heart attack. Like, when we're looking in the hallway too, a radio starts saying that a 7th year was found dead. She jumped out of her dormitory window. So it's kind of foreshadowing a little bit on Marianne's chapter. Seems like the ghost does play on people's fears in this game. So, like, Isabella, I think it was more of the fact that the ghost showed herself to Isabella is because Isabella is very superstitious and with her beliefs and stuff like that. So that's why I think the ghost didn't really play on Isabella's fears, like showing her something or like, something that's close to her, because she's just scared of, those kind of stories and stuff like that. Okay, and then in Hannah's chapter, I don't know, it seemed like the ghost girl was trying to trick her into going into the wine cellar. I don't really know what exactly it was playing on the fears for Hannah. But for Zach's chapter, when his mom would sing that lullaby or whatever it was, then the ghost girl was trying to trick Zach by singing that same song. And then now for Marianne's chapter, it seems like, the person that she had cared for or was her friend, it's kind of playing on the emotions of that. We go over the floor plans with the Wrights, and Luke has some requests about the mansion. He wants to make the dining room into a garage, and, he has all these requests of Marianne. And so they head over to the mansion to kind of look around and see if that's feasible. And then we decide to go on the first floor of the mansion, and we run into Hannah, and we talk to her for a little bit. And then she leaves, and all of a sudden the room turns bloody, and then a voice, which I think it's the voice of her friend, is calling out to her from the study. So Marianne goes in there, and we see a flashback of Marianne's life. She used to go to an all-girls boarding school at St. Samanthan's, and she had a best friend named Lorraine. They were really close, and it seems like when Lorraine had opened up to Marianne and told her her feelings for her, Marianne, she was raised to be taught that, a woman and man should be married. It's a sin to like another of the same sex, and it's kind of been embedded into her that way. I think because she was scared of, even admitting her own feelings to herself, she rejected Lorraine, and that made Lorraine very depressed, and she ended up committing suicide. Then Lorraine appears in the mirror in the study to Marianne. She comes lunging out of the mirror at us saying, why don't you love me, or something like that, or look at me. And Marianne runs away, and she runs into Hannah. Her and Hannah kind of have an embrace. Marianne's pretty scared. I don't know, it was a very touching moment. Then it's moving day. Then she runs into Luke, and Luke overhears Hannah and Zach talking with each other about, like, Zach's films and stuff like that. And I think Luke gets a little jealous, maybe a bit sad, and he sends everybody home for the day. Then Marianne goes to the crawl bar and gets shit-faced, and then she overhears G and Ashton talking about Luke Wright, and she kind of butts into the conversation because she's been drinking and she just wants to talk. Then is the day of the housewarming party, and we have breakfast with Hannah, and we're now just heading over to the kitchen. So let's continue where we left off. I make it into the kitchen with ease, the wine cellar being my final destination. But when is a great task ever simple? Probably never. And this is a great task, isn't it? My greatest one yet that is worthy of being called a quest. I'm not acting as Marianne McCullough, the professional interior designer, when I choose to lie about being too busy for a party. I'm Marianne McCullough, a lawful neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma. Just thinking of it like that makes it a bit cheesy, but it helps with the fear. It helps overcome the insane thought that I'm actively seeking out something that has been plaguing me for years. I might face my worst nightmare, or I might see nothing and find my self-imagined grand quest fall flat. And who would have thought that the gatekeeper to my final quest would be someone I thought would be a valuable ally?
Schnell! Hurry up, you snails! We are on a deadline and you are wasting my time!
The butler comes from the cellar and into the kitchen, tailed by a couple of others, people who I assume are most likely chefs and bartenders. He raises a brow. Seeing me just standing there by the hatch, by the trap door, it almost looks like he's going to throw me out for being in the kitchen without permission. But then he motions for the others to disperse and familiarize themselves with their surroundings. Meanwhile, he continues to stand there, preventing entry into the darkness beyond.
What are you doing here, Fraulein? This is not the place for guests or in an architect right now. I request you leave.
I was just looking around for any last-minute things, yes?
Yes, you have been doing that a lot. Looking around, snooping about.
Not really. I mean, we're an interior designer. We have to be, like, looking around at the house. Why are you being so weird, Johannes?
Now is not the time for such things. If you're not careful, people might think you are up to something.
Not little me. The look he gives me as he says this is almost chilling. If life was a game book, he'd probably be the neutral warlock guarding the treasure room. A difficult opponent to beat with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in dexterity.
Well, I'm not done yet. I actually need to go into the wine cellar. Just need a quick go at the place. So, just don't mind me. I'll be out of your hair soon enough.
Go outside, enjoy the party. Bask in the praise and adulation they will no doubt shower you with when the madam speaks highly of you. Surely you've had enough of this stuffy old kitchen by now. You do not want to cause trouble. Both the bratwurst and Hannah want this to be perfect. It would be a disservice and a disrespect to toe out of line and risk it being anything otherwise. And more importantly, I will be blamed for any failure that happens tonight.
His intervention almost turns me away. Maybe this is a sign I'm not meant to seek Lorraine out. But...
Please, it's really important.
15 minutes. 9, 10 minutes. Any longer and I'll pull you out of there myself. The bratwurst will be furious if he thinks anyone is touching his precious wine without his permission.
Thank you. This seriously means a lot.
he steps aside begrudgingly. At this point, it looks like there's no turning back. Mansion underground cellar in the morning. The cellar greets me ominously as I descend. The space feels smaller, with a lot more bottles lining the wall compared to before, and knowing what might be waiting for me here makes things worse. The mirror that had been moved from the study is my goal. I did not return to it after my initial discovery, but the thought of Lorraine, how much I want to see her again, even if it's just for one more time, keeps coming back to my mind. As I walk through the cellar, I have to stop when I feel something crunch beneath my feet. Ugh. Whatever few bottles were left behind here are now nothing but glass under my heels. Perhaps dropped by one of the many chefs and bartenders the butler had escorted through here before. And it made a downright mess, with red slick pooling from the remnants of a good drink. With how dark this place is, a person with a dark enough imagination can easily mistake it for blood. I can't help but think it is, despite the easy, logical explanation that had come to my mind, only because of what I'm about to do. It's merely a momentary distraction as I continue to the end of the cellar where the mirror stands. Ugh. Propped up on the far wall, it gleams innocently while pretending to be a simple and ordinary mirror. How morbid to think this thing can show a person their deepest, most desperate desires and then twists it into an image so dark. That's what I had seen that day. Though I heard Lorraine many times, I had only seen her here within its frame. I wonder if people have discovered it before. How many were wasted away in front of it, enamored, and how many were frightened away by what they saw? Yet, as I stand before it now, nothing. I can barely see my own reflection in this darkness.
How does this even work? Mirror, mirror on the wall? Something? Anything?
Nothing. Touching its surface doesn't make it magically activate or anything like that. There is no sudden surge of power, and I'm not suddenly granted sight. It stays what it is, a mirror. Was Lorraine's appearance in the mirror all some sort of fever dream? Am I really that burdened with guilt and despair that my mind would eat itself in my stress and have me hallucinate such things? Either way, just going here on some crazed obsession for a girl long gone must warrant me a trip to the doctor. Already, I feel ill. After a few more minutes, in the hopes that something would change, I turn around to leave. I can just go back upstairs like nothing ever happened, perhaps drop by the party for some hors d'oeuvres, and then go home and collect myself. Besides, Mrs. Wright is expecting me, and I'm...
Going to leave me again then, are you?
I stop in my tracks, but I don't turn back. As much as it pains me, I don't look back. If I'm just hearing her again, desperately delusional, and I look back to see nothing, I don't want to give myself false hope. But when I feel fingers around my wrist pull at me, I look back in shock. What are you doing? How is she standing in front of me? I thought she was stuck in the mirror. Or is this the ghost just trying to fucking take the image on someone she cares about to trick her? My first thought is, how in God's name is this possible? And the second is, Lorraine. Her hands are cold.
Are you that mad at me that you're just going to ignore me, Marianne?
I don't trust you. I don't know what to say, and I can only stare at her and wonder. She stands there, in the mirror. Okay, so she's in the mirror, with only her arm extended outward for my sake. I look at the hand still holding my wrist, and when she sees me looking at it, she moves it so that our hands are intertwined, fingers weave together. Seeing her there and feeling her touch meant I'm not crazy, though however impossible and unexplainable this all is to me right now. It just takes my breath away. Pulling her out from there is tempting. I can imagine doing so with ease. We can be together again, Lorraine and Marianne, like nothing had ever happened. But that would be all a great big lie, wouldn't it?
What? Tack out your tongue? Don't just look at me like that. Say something.
She's really pretty, though. Even if this thing were some sort of magic portal that could bring back the dead, that doesn't erase anything. Just looking at her, still a young teenager while I'm already a grown woman, it serves no other reason than to break the illusion that blinds me. I've seen her twice now, always behind the mirror. If this is real, if this isn't some delusion, then why can she only exist behind the glass?
Yeah. You have no idea how happy I am to see you. It's been so long.
You don't look happy.
I really am happy.
I don't know, man. I mean, she tried coming at us through the mirror last episode, Marianne. Did you not forget that? Like, why are we even talking to her right now? I'm so freaking nervous.
But at the same time, I can't help but think about what happened to you.
And what does that mean? What are you saying?
She gives me this peculiar look. And before my eyes, she moves a step out of the mirror. In turn, I wrench my hand from her and take a step back, almost as if I am afraid.
I don't know how this is possible, but whatever this is, it isn't real. You can't be real.
I'm right here, aren't I? What other proof do you need?
No, I see you. I hear you. I feel you. But even with all that, you can't be real. You just can't. I saw your body. I helped bury you. You're dead.
A deep hurt crosses her face, and it just breaks my heart in two, seeing her wear that expression.
Burying me wasn't the only thing you did. Don't you dare lie. But I'm going to be the bigger woman, aren't I? Let bygones be bygones. I'll forgive you, as long as you stay with me, Marianne.
Why is she smiling at me so creepily like that? Ugh.
That's why you came down here, right? To find me?
That was the plan. I came down here looking for her, for closure. But this isn't just closure. This is something else entirely. I didn't think I would be forced to make such a choice. Do I leave or do I stay? Hold up. Oh wait, hold on. Oops, wrong spot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is just a trick. So I'm gonna say I need to move on. Closure. That's all I came here for. Whatever this is, it might as well all be just a devil's trick. And I might as well make some use of it, right? I say nothing at first, for fear of angering whatever phantom this is. I take Lorianne's hand and bring it up to my lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. She takes this as some sort of invitation to pull me along, to step back into the mirror until only her arm is extended again.
I should have been more honest back then, both to you and myself. I know it's too late. I'm sorry. But
the thought of being with the dead did not agree with me, not one bit.
I can't stay with you.
Ochimanalak, goodbye, my first love.
So what? You're going to leave me for some old trophy wife? That's it, isn't it? You're going to leave poor Amy Lorraine and go after the next rich, pretty blonde that you see.
This is a mistake.
All these years, guilt has been my driving force. I felt so guilty for what I did, what I didn't do.
She thinks she can guilt me into being complacent, but she realizes otherwise as I pull my hand from her. And going by the look of anger on her face, an anger that runs cold, she did not like the fact that I'm not some puppet on a string. Had she chosen her words carefully, I would have accepted whatever punishment Lorraine chooses to give me. Guilt had ran my life, and it might have very well ended it. Because I deserved it.
But what I did to me. The blood in my hands is mine, not yours.
Whoever or whatever the shadow is, my gut tells me she's not Lorraine. Yet I keep talking as if she is.
I broke your heart, not your neck.
Ugh.
Don't you dare deny it! It was your fault!
Because I loved you more than I dared to admit? Yes, that was my fault. But I never meant to hurt you like that.
Despite my words, no matter how sincere they are, she appears angry, enraged in fact. It's been years since I last saw that face, and even now, the memory of it is still etched deeply in my mind. The hurt, the tears, and the hate spilling from her eyes that day, the moment I rejected her. Rejected myself for who I am. and she definitely will hate what I'm about to do next. To my left, a wine rack. And from there, I take a bottle and pray to all the saints I can remember. For all my sins. For every hurtful words I've uttered. For what I've driven her to do that day, what I forced her into.
What are you doing?
I do it without thinking twice. Quickly, before I can hesitate, I grab a bottle and send it straight towards the mirror. God! Yeah, that was totally the ghost girl. That was not Lorraine. Shards of the bottle and the mirror are sent flying everywhere as Lorraine's scream echo in the cellar. Bitter. Searing. Like every wounding accusation she hurled at me. They never left me. I doubt they ever will. But with this, I can move away from them, from her, live my life as I should, free from the burden. Her burden. Because the Lorraine I know, the real one, the person I loved, will never want me carrying this to my death. As the screaming dies down, I can't help but mutter weakly,
It's done. It's done.
Achievement unlocked, mirror, mirror on the wall.
Oh, Lorraine. Forgive me, Lorraine.
I take some time to compose myself, breathing in and out, stamping down on the tremor still racking my hands, straightening out my jacket, and fixing my hair. Hold on, I just want to see what that decision, like where it led us on the branching tree. Question, move on. Ooh. Oh, I'm right at the end. I need to move on. Okay. All a weak attempt at returning myself to someone resembling my normal self. This would probably be easier to do so with a mirror, but I likely won't be able to stand looking at one for a long time.
Well now, I should probably go back up there. Party to attend, rich socialites to do business with, and food to eat. Mrs. Wright will be happy if I make some time for it anyway.
Yet, one last time to the shattered glass beneath my feet.
I'm sorry, Lorraine. May you see God's light on the path.
Turning around to leave, and for good this time, the uneasy smile on my face falls as I see Lorraine whole and well. Why is she looking at me like that?
Come on, Mac. You really didn't think it would be that easy, did you? You get bonus points for trying. But you should know innate charisma is not enough to turn undead.
That sounded so creepy with the way she said it. She advances towards me, backs me against the wall. I can't even reach for another wine bottle without putting myself within her reach. Despite my earlier bravado, I didn't think she'll be able to exist at all without the mirror. Can you blame me though? It's not like I'm an expert on the supernatural.
That's not... You shouldn't be...
What? After the mirror? Did you think just moving on will erase what you did to me? You're nothing but a murderer, Marianne. A murderer!
Stay back. You're not real. Leave me alone. Stop. I'm trying to move on with my life, so why won't you let me?
I hope this was the right choice.
Please. Just get out of my head and leave me be.
I try to find an exit when there's a click. The next thing I know, I'm falling back into darkness. Ah! Achievement unlocked. Behind closed doors. Explore the deepest corners of the mansion. I fall on my back and a door slams shut behind me. Desperate to deal with her painful past, Marianne McCullough excused herself from attending the housewarming party to search for Amy Lorraine within the mansion. Seeing her ghost in the wine cellar, however, a realization hit her and she finally let go. In a daze, I look around wearily and find myself in another room entirely. On the other side of the wall, some sort of secret passage, perhaps, an underground tunnel that has me wary and frightened. It also proves that the oddities in the mansion's floor plans are a lot more than just little discrepancies. I expect Lorraine to jump out at me from the darkness at any time. So, like, what is this, like, a dungeon? That's what it looks like. A breeze blowing through the tunnel has me relieved, though, at the idea that there is still a way to escape should that happen. That is way better than being trapped underground with only God knows what that was. A funny thought comes to mind as I start walking to where the exit might be. I think about how Mrs. Wright would be so disappointed if I didn't show up to the party. I imagine how furious Mr. Wright would be for breaking one of his wine bottles. Even Johannes' reaction comes to mind, though I don't really know it that guy. One thing's for sure is that I would be calling Cam and Haruna for a drink as soon as I get out of here. I hear you! That noise has me wary. A ghastly thing, a corpse of a woman leans on the wall. Her arms and limbs, almost every inch of her lithe body, is peppered with wounds and rotting flesh. And it is then that the putrid smell of blood and gore hits me, making it so that I don't even question how I missed it in the first place.
How long has this been here? Ugh, that smell. Oh, you're a nasty one, aren't you?
I flinch as the thing twitches. And as soon as it opens its eyes and looks at me with a smile, there's nothing on my mind but horror. Ugh. I break into a run. I try to keep on running no matter how much my legs and feet scream at me to stop. I keep going, even when I look back and see nothing of her anymore, because I can still hear her. The scampering of her feet, the words she tries to form with her bloodied mouth, and the painful sounds of bones grinding against each other as she moves closer and closer to me.
How long are these damn tunnels?
There's a split second where I know that thing is right behind me, a strange sensation creeping over my limbs when her presence looms over me. And then suddenly... Ah! I can't even do anything before I'm yanked by the hair and pulled back. Still, I struggle, up until I'm thrown to the side like some rag doll. God dang it! I hit the ground on my side, and the musty smell of old hay that reaches me is my only indication that I'm still alive.
Please don't hurt me!
My body hurts and I keep my eyes shut tight, afraid of what might happen next.
What's wrong, Marianne? Are you really afraid of little old me?
I knew the ghost was just tricking us, dude. It's a smart ghost. There's only dread, seeing how she's followed me even here. She looms over me, backs me further in the cell that I was thrown in.
Please, it's so cold. I don't want to be alone, Marianne. Why won't you stay with me? Why would you leave me? Why?
'Cause you're crazy, girl.
What are you?
Lorraine turns and shifts into that thing from before. And with the same gruesome grin, it takes a step forward towards the cell. Towards me. I barely scramble to my knees when the door to the cell slams shut and it just stands there, staring. Shouts for help ring out in the tunnels. But none of them are coming from me. I'm more paralyzed and shocked by what is happening. My throat tightens at being fooled by the image of Lorraine, at the thought of being trapped down here. So then, where?
Help me! Help me! Oh, help me! Are you getting all this on camera, Carl? Yeah, but are you guys sure this is a good idea? We're breaking and entering here. Don't worry, the owners of this place haven't been here in a long time. Look at this thing, though. It has writing in blood like some cheesy 80s horror prop. Wait, I have an idea. Oh man, that's genius!
Wait, so did they add on? Okay, so there is a help me letter, right? But did they add, you have to send this to 5 people or else? Like, it doesn't even matter how many people you show it to. Like, you're just screwed, right? Is that what this is implying?
What kind of butthead would even take this thing seriously? Maybe we can stick this in Rowan's backpack.
Achievement unlocked. Prank gone wrong.
What? Spit it out! Behind you!
They're in the corner. Ah! God dang it. They're in the corner of the cell. A digital camera comes flickering to life, and a video has played back on the screen. It was hard to even consider paying any attention to it when my life is on the line. But when the ghost doesn't move and the teenagers' mocking shouts of "help me" filled the cell, I just had to watch. And what I had seen, students, judging by their St. Goretti uniforms, they were holding
That letter.
and that thing, the woman, she... Wait. Okay, so the ghost lady just turned into the woman in the painting in the foyer. So what? Is there two spirits here in this house? This ghost girl and then the, Lady Charlotte, right? While trying to escape the phantom disguised as her friend, Marianne discovered an underground prison hidden in the deepest corners of the mansion. Now trapped in one of its cells, she found a recording left behind by some of the mansion's victims. Rebecca's chapter. Wow, they're just gonna leave Marianne in a cell like that? Oh my god. They always leave us on a cliffhanger. This is how it begins, or so they say. Alright, we got a new profile, Rebecca. Rebecca Gales. Birth date is April 1st. She's an Aries and she's 29 years old. Height 5'5", 165 centimeters. Occupation, history teacher. Nationality, Scottish. Religion, atheist. Raised Kirk. Education. Master's degree in education, major in European history, like stovies, reading in the library, going to the gym, cycling and jogging, lacrosse, and lesson plans. Although of Scottish descent, she grew up in Luxbourne and even went to school in St. Goretti. Her parents were professors of European history and Southeast Asian history at Luxbourne University. They were often busy, and that forced Rebecca to be independent early on. Surrounded by books and instilled with a love for learning, she was a star pupil and was often called a teacher's pet for it. Her passion for academics leading to a career in the industry was to be expected of her. She came out of her shell in her high school years and started becoming the Spitfire she is now. Before then, Ashton was her only friend, though she found him aggravating at first. Independent and used to taking care of others, it was no surprise when she helped out the young foreigner who moves in next door. With a gentle wind drifting through wide-open windows, muffled laughters and footsteps fading behind empty hallways, and the light kiss of the afternoon sun. Soon there will be a call, a crossing of thresholds into the unknown. Maybe we are off to some grand adventure, or diving into another gripping mystery. One can't really tell. For all I know, a hero might even come to sweep me off my feet, if I'm lucky.
That's not exactly a bad thing when you think about it.
But this is far from one, isn't it? A riveting tale, that is. St. Goretti High School in the afternoon, on October 21st, Friday. So October 21st. Okay, this is the same day when we first start out with Isabella and Rebecca talking, I guess, so... Alright. The mild breeze, the faint murmurs, the warm rays painting every nook and cranny a fiery hue, they are all as real as they can get. As much as I want to write a little tale out of this, I'm far from someone who can. Fleeting fancies, that's what these are, merely passing thoughts to occupy an idle mind, while waiting for another busy workday to end. Then again, maybe in another life, I am one, who knows? But at the present, what I have and what I've chosen to be? Well,
I won't last years here if I find teaching rowdy adolescents a tedious job, will I?
admittedly, the whole affair isn't exactly as grand or exciting as I had imagined as a child. If I weren't so stubborn and too passionate about the whole idea, I probably would have quit a long time ago. But it's always the kids that make it worthwhile, isn't it? As if in agreement, as soon as my pen slides into a neat circle against the papers I'm grading, the final bell rings. Like a dam that is open, students begin piling out into the hallway soon after. For a short minute, I let the noise fill my ears, let my mind wander to a place far removed from all the hubbub. Solitary moments like this have come few and far between lately. Even my own home hasn't been as quiet as usually I prefer. Though in hindsight, the entire place hasn't been the same either, since Isabella moved in next door. And if her fussing over a minor cold last week tells anything, I might as well throw any idea of solitude out the nearest balcony, so long as she lives nearby. At the memory, my eyes automatically shift over the bottle sitting at the edge of my desk. A chuckle escapes from me as I reach for it.
A little ball of energy and enthusiasm. That big baby.
Mother Hen, she calls me, and then says and does the same thing right after. It's not that I'm unused to being on the receiving end of other people's worries, or I feel any sort of apprehension over her fretting. If I'm to be completely honest, it's actually amusing how someone can be childlike one minute, then act like a responsible adult the next. But there's a dissonance there, both in her actions and words. Although she may not look like it, may not say anything, may not lose her cheer one way or another, I know these troubles have weighed down on her lately. Her face says it all, that big numpty. Numpty. If she thinks I won't notice, she's got another thing coming for her. That's how she's always been. I do understand that part, loud and clear. It's just that I really rather not pass another burden onto her.
Or become one myself.
Aren't I supposed to be the one taking care of them? Though I guess that's simply one of those things people eventually grow away from once you've all started leading different lives. Not completely different, I hope. Somehow that thought makes me feel uneasy. Thankfully, before stranger ideas can take root in my head, a faint buzzing comes from my bag, cutting through the rest of my thoughts. A small frown forms in my lips when the screen lights up and an unknown number flashes. For a long second, my thumb hovers over the answer button. Even the voice that responds, once I do accept the call, is wholly unfamiliar.
Hello?
Oh, goodness. Finally, it connects.
Rose?
Hello? Is this Miss Gales? Rebecca Gales?
Yes, speaking. Who is this?
Oh, sorry.
I feel like they should have included Rose in this story, made her one of the friends or whatever. I mean, I feel like she was just like a throwaway character in a sense, you know what I mean? Like she was destined to die for the progression of the story or something like that.
Rose Cooper, Briar Realty Corporation.
Briar Realty?
My frown deepens as I straighten from my chair. Something in her tone, despite sounding remarkably friendly and light, doesn't sit quite well with me. The rigid pause that follows doesn't help ease the tension that has suddenly descended either.
Miss Cooper?
Yes. Things are a bit busy on my end. I apologize. I'm not certain if Isabella has mentioned anything before, but we're working together on a property at the moment, and...
The Armengard Mansion, yes. She said something about that earlier. Is there a problem?
This is about Isabella, actually.
She wastes no time relaying everything. The details she provided are, admittedly, a bit vague, but enough for me to get a gist of what happened. It isn't the bad sort I'm expecting, though still worrying. especially with words panic attack and pale looking a bit sickly woven together in one foreboding sentence. But as quickly as it surfaces, I stomp down the urge to demand answers right there and then. Now isn't the proper time for useless questions. I'll find out soon enough, regardless. To Miss Cooper's credit, she neither hesitates nor falters all throughout. There's some sort of comfort in knowing Isabella has someone like her to guide her, though not as much as I would have liked. After all, this is Isabella we're talking about. What are the chances she just said a bunch of excuses so she won't get sent home? High. Very high. Oh, she is going to hear it this time.
You were listed as one of her emergency contacts, so I thought it'd be best you know about this. How is she? Is she doing okay? I had her take a break for now, but honestly, I'd feel better if someone were to pick her up and take her home for some rest. Anthem's a fair distance from Luxbourne. I really don't want her going off on her own. I'd do it myself, but you know how it is today. Big day. People everywhere until the open house ends. I'm really sorry to ask this of you, Miss Gales. I know you're busy. Oh, no, it's all good. I was just about to leave from work. I hope to leave early today anyway. A few minutes ahead wouldn't hurt. I can be there in a few, 40 minutes tops. Is that all right? More than fine, Miss Gales, thank you. We're supposed to be here until... Oh, excuse me. One moment, please. Yes, ma'am.
The faint hum of conversation echoes from her end. It sounds as though the place is buzzing with more people than you will expect from a regular open house. I was skeptical at first. The house is old, not to mention its inconvenient location in Luxbourne outskirts. Who wants to live in a place almost an hour's drive away from the comforts of a city? But from what little I can hear, it appears Isabella has every right to be optimistic about the sale. If I didn't understand why she was so adamant refusing my offer of help before, I think I do now. To some degree.
We'll be resuming the tour soon. Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I really need to get this thing going. Lord knows how I'll salvage the situation here. It shouldn't be anything complicated, but still, clients. They can be difficult when they want to be. Anyway, just look for me when you get here, alright? I shouldn't be too hard to miss. No problem. Thanks for letting me know about this. Just make sure Isabella stays put, please. Heaven knows how stubborn that girl can be.
Well, she's gonna leave with Ashton, so even if Rebecca does go over there, like, she's gonna be already left with Ashton, you know? Ashton was already at the open house and he picked her up.
Oh, believe me, I know. Don't worry about it. I'll have a few of our staff keep an eye on her for me until you get here. That's all I'm asking. I appreciate it.
The whole thing ends on a surprisingly pleasant note. If only the same could be said for the news she brought. I allow a brief minute to pass to ease whatever tension has latched itself firmly to my nerves. But no matter how much I wish for it, my mind stubbornly refuses to do so. My hands are unsteady against the papers I pretend to arrange after. Lucid thoughts, every single ounce of it grimmer than the other, grows with each passing second I linger. Something about this whole thing, along with the sudden unease and nagging worry, screams off. Wrong. This isn't the riveting tale I've hoped to step into today. Afternoon now. Even on a rush, getting everything in order before leaving takes nearly a good quarter hour. By the time I make it out of the classroom, the commotion has already died down, dwindling to mere echoes and distant laughters. From the nearby room, melodies from a rehearsing band drifts freely into the air, filling the almost empty hallway with their warm, lively tunes. Any other day, I'll stop, bask in the music, and enjoy what little peace it brings. Not today, however. My steps are brisk and sure as I march to Edward Hall's exit. The sooner I confirm Isabella's okay, the sooner I can shake off this niggling feeling. For one reason or another, that single call, of all possible things, has thrown everything off kilter. I'd rather this be over with as quickly as possible. So much that I nearly barrel over a student in my haste. Whoa! God dang! Though perhaps it's really the other way around. Oh, it's Kylie! Kylie? Oh my god, don't tell me that she's gonna be like freaking Rebecca out this chapter. I can already see it, man. I'm scared. Her arms are wrapped around my waist like a vice, and at my attention, a grin spreads over her face.
Buenas tardes, Miss Pink.
Hold on, did I skip something? Oh. When I look down, a set of eyes, bright and hopeful, stare back at me. Her arms are wrapped around my waist like a vice, and at my attention, a grin spreads over her face.
Buenas tardes, Miss Pink.
Oh, her voice sounds different.
Hello, Kylie.
Oh, she's Spanish?
You know, you aren't supposed to run into people like that.
Sorry, Miss Pink.
She loosens her hold on me, but not a hint of guilt or regret appears on her. If anything, it seems the remark only amused her. A smile appears on my face before I can help it, matching the one on her own.
Just remember not to do it again, all right? You could get hurt.
You sound like my mama when she's scolding Rowan, Miss Pink.
I'm sure your mama only means well. I know she'll be worried sick if one of you were to get hurt. Where's your brother anyway? Aren't you two supposed to be heading home now?
Rowan said he's got some stuff he needs to do before we go. I think he's taking too long. But he promised to buy me jelly babies today, if I keep what he's doing a secret from Mama and Papa.
Oh, she's so cute.
Any chance you'll tell Miss Pink about it?
She shakes her head, both her hands going to her mouth, as if to keep it a precious secret from spilling out.
I made a promise. She said it to Tia Luke.
Why does she sound so weird now?
Oh, something like a gift?
Like a deal. Tio promised to take him somewhere cool when he's old enough. Rowan's gonna prove he's a grown-up.
Laughter slips free from my lips. The teacher in me wants to give whoever this Tio is a reprimand for bringing about this kind of behavior in children. But if both Suarez kids are so fond of him, there shouldn't be anything to worry about, yes? At any rate, they're nothing but well-behaved, both Kylie and her brother. Rowan, the eldest, may have an occasional odd streak in and out of class, but their parents taught them well. I see no reason to cast any suspicion of bad behavior on them.
As long as it isn't anything dangerous, all right?
It's not. Cross my heart. My drawings are a lot prettier than what he's doing anyway. Tio said so. Do you want to see? I drew one earlier at class.
What does Tio mean? Because like my dad's Puerto Rican, and I think that means like uncle or something, right? Hold on, I gotta look this up. Now I'm curious. Yeah, it means uncle or aunt. Tio or tia. Yeah, I thought so.
Is that why you're here?
Not really. I was gonna show it to my friend first. But since it's you, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you see it before she does.
Oh no. I can't stay right now, Kylie.
Her face falls immediately after the words are out. A small part of me feels responsible for that crestfallen look, but as much as I want to stay a little longer, there's another place I need to be at right now. And, frankly, another child to look after. Taking both of her hands, I kneel in front of her and muster the most rueful smile I can give. At her age, I'm quite sure she already understands what I'm about to say before they're even out. But remarkably, she doesn't look away or pouts as I'm expecting her to.
I'm sorry. You know what? Rowan has a class with me on Monday around this time. Why don't you drop by again next week? After class? I'll even make sure to wait for you. It's just that I absolutely must leave now. My friend had an accident earlier, and I'm the only one she has here.
What about her mama and papa?
Her family lives really far from here, I'm afraid. Do you remember where Asia is? The southeast part? That's where they are.
Her eyes immediately light up at my question. Just like that, I know I've earned the girl's forgiveness.
Oh, just like Takako.
Takako?
Who?
My friend.
You have a
She
friend
said
from
she used to
Asia?
live there, only just a little higher than southeast. But she hasn't come home in a long time, so she doesn't remember much about it anymore. Melody says it's weird I talked to her, but I think she's just shy. They could be good friends too! Don't you think so, Miss Pink?
Maybe if you introduce them properly, they will be.
That's what I think. Takako's just lonely. If she makes more friends, she won't be anymore. Is your friend like that too?
A little, possibly. To be honest, sometimes I can't tell with her.
After all, Isabella has always been the kind to hold a smile, even when things have taken a turn for the worse. 5 years, and one will think it's enough time to know a person. But when you consider it, come to think of it, all these years, I've never, not even once, seen her cry. Not over a trivial matter, or even when things are tough.
Okay, you can go to her. I'll just show you my drawing next time.
Thank you. Remind me to buy you a huge glass of parfait, all right?
No, I'll get a stomachache. Takako says so. A small one is okay.
I'll remember that. Say hi to your friend for me.
I will. I'm sure she'd love to meet you too. See you, Miss Pink.
I'll see you later, Kylie.
London Bridge is falling down, falling.
She doesn't look back or wait for any sort of goodbye from me.
Lady.
Okay. Rebecca Gills received a phone call from Rose Cooper after class, asking her to pick up Isabella Santos from the Ermengarde mansion. On her way out of school, an excited Kylie Suarez stops by her favorite teacher from leaving. With a song and an extra spring in her steps, she bounds across the corridor with as much spirit only a child her age can have. As if the conversation has never taken any downhill turn for her at all. As if there isn't a single thing to worry about in the world. Not long after, she disappears behind a door, leaving behind strains of an old familiar rhyme lingering in the air. Carefree, unbidden, untroubled moments like this, I envy her. And as I resume my hurried pace, a tiny whisper at the back of my mind wishes the same can be said of myself and my own worries. Luxbourne may be a small city, but it's no stranger to hellish rush hour traffic. But surprisingly, getting out of the city today proves more of a breeze than a hassle. A relief, considering how none of my calls to Isabella have made it through. Either the reception's really bad over there, or she's ignoring them on purpose. Both does nothing to ease the disquiet in me. The rest of my drive passes without much incident as soon as I'm out of the busy streets. In less than 30 minutes, the mansion looms ahead of me. For all the fuss Isabella made about the house, it remains a thing of beauty. Unlike Luxbourne, the estate and the nearby Anselm village stands as its complete opposite. Living and breathing the songs of the old, whispers of a once booming haven lingering in the air. Contemporary conveniences aside, it's a place I'm glad modernization hasn't wholly touched.
It's just a shame the locals know more of the silly hearsay than the history itself. If I could only knock some sense into these people!
Sadly, complaining is all I can afford to do. As much as I want to give them a piece of my mind, it isn't why I'm here. I don't think these rich types will appreciate getting a lecture from me either. I have as much business with them as they have with me. With a heavy sigh, I give myself one last second to take in the scenery before heading up the main entrance. Most of the guests are already heading out. Though some still linger, it's mainly just to take photos of the house's facade or its various rooms. I pause for a moment, scanning the small crowd gathered at the foyer, looking for any sign of that familiar ponytail among the sea of hats and heads.
No sign of her.
No sign of the other staff or Miss Cooper either. I can certainly look for Isabella on my own, but in a place this big? I'd be lucky if I didn't end up lost or find her before we need to meet with Zachary and Ash tonight. Sighing, I reach for my mobile and redial her number, the gesture familiar now after so many attempts earlier. If she doesn't answer, I can still try contacting Miss Cooper. I just hope the network reception will cooperate this time. This side of the country has never been popular with the tech savvy after all. To my relief, it only took 3 unsuccessful tries. At the 4th one, right as it's about to switch to another intercept message, the line finally rings. Silence follows while I wait for her to pick up, the ringing going far too long for my tastes. By now, most of the visitors have already cleared out. All I have for company are the faint murmurs and an eerie calmness left in their wake. A sudden hush settles and gives way to noises louder than they're ever meant to be. Doors creaking and slamming shut in some distant part of the mansion, floorboards groaning under the sheer weight of the house's history. In the now empty hall, they all reverberate with special clarity against the walls. Like this, those old stories seem to almost have a ring of truth to it. I don't get to stray far into that ugly line of thought, however. Not a second later, a click sounds from the other end.
Hello? Isabella? Miss Cooper called earlier and... Isabella? Belle? Are you alright?
Without any warning, the call gets cut off. Busy notes blare sharply against the heavy silence. But above the noise cutting through the mute air remains the faint cries of a woman. I hear her. Wow, it's so cool to see like everyone's chapters and how they're so different of like, you know, when they interact with the ghost, especially like on the timeline. Like, you know, I didn't think like Rebecca would be experiencing the ghost woman like so early in her chapter already. It's interesting. From beyond the foyer, my hand falls to my side as I cast a wary look around, waiting for someone to come running. Surely, I can't be the only one hearing this. There must still be some staff hanging around, checking things out. But no one does. Not even when her sobs turn more frantic and anguished.
Excuse me? Hello? Who's there? Isabella?
That is not Isabella.
Isabella? Is that you?
No answer. Growing anxious, I amble over where her cries come from, each step, slow and cautious, towards a door on the other end of the room. While I'm far from someone who readily gives into fear or stories lacking factual basis, the vague, restless feeling I have earlier immediately returns to me. And despite myself, my heart begins to race and my breathing quickens.
Belle? Belle, it's me. Miss Cooper called. Is everything okay?
Abruptly, all of it stops. My whole body tenses, mouth dragging in a ragged breath, ears straining for any other sound yet to come from the other side. But nothing follows. Instead, the quiet only lends itself to the heavy tension in the air, as if every small movement will disturb the fragile stillness hanging in the room. I wait for another second. Then, with a caution, I reach for the knob. My fingers barely graze the brass handle when a hand falls on my shoulder.
Excuse me, ma'am? I am so
Gross.
sorry. I didn't mean to startle you.
I was expecting a jump scare.
It's a...
Still reeling, my gaze shifts back to the door, as if any second now the cries will start again, or whoever's inside will burst out of the room. but I don't get to dwell on these. The woman's worried voice breaks through the haze in my mind again, oddly soothing in the thick of my unease. Even if the concerned look comes from a total stranger, finally being in the company of someone else is somehow comforting.
Ma'am? Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm fine. This is probably just some cold.
Yes, it's some cold, Rebecca.
Do you need to sit down?
No need.
I'm sorry, but if I went into a mansion, or if I went into a place and I heard some frickin' person crying and then all of a sudden it just stops, I'd kind of be really freaked out, and like, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's just some cold, I'm just sick. I'd be like, there was someone crying. I'm kind of freaked out.
I'm actually looking for a friend.
I wave the mobile in front of her, like the gesture alone explains everything. Vaguely, I note my tight grip on it and quickly slip it into my pocket before she notices. She doesn't need to know.
Well, I'm not really sure if your friend would still be here. We're actually about to close the open house in a few minutes, ma'am.
No worries. She's not a guest here. She works for Briar Realty. Miss Cooper called me earlier. In fact, I'm also looking for her.
Recognition flashes in her eyes, and her worried expression dissolves into a smile at once. It's all I need to know that I don't have to look elsewhere or venture deeper into the mansion on my own. In some way, I'm not too keen on the latter right now.
Oh, Miss Rebecca Gales, is it?
Yes. Sorry if I'm a bit late.
It's not a problem. I was busy with the open house and a few clients anyway. It's actually a good thing you came when you did. Let's see. Isabella should be here somewhere. I told her to stay put earlier. That girl never listens.
Rose? Rosie? May I have a minute? There's just this one little thing before we go.
Miss Cooper's head immediately snaps up at the voice. In a blink, a different kind of smile spreads on her face. A smile still, friendly, even, but the kind given mainly for the sake of pleasing other people rather than making friends.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be there in a few.
It's an impressive thing, to say the least. That level of professionalism. I suppose working years in this kind of business trains you enough to be able to pull that off without batting an eye. It certainly didn't seem to have rubbed off on Isabella, though.
Sorry, could you give me a second? I have to take care of this.
Don't worry about it. I understand. I can wait a few more minutes. Clients, right?
You won't hear anything from me. Priorities, you know? But if you want, you can stay at the parlor in the meantime. I think we have a few refreshments left.
No, thank you. I'm going out with a few friends after this. Isabella's supposed to join us too. But that depends on how she's doing, of course.
All right, this won't be long, I promise.
Okay, now, I don't mean to, but now that I'm looking in the foyer now, it was this woman here. First it was the ghost girl, and then it changed into that woman. So, yeah, they gotta be connected some way, somehow. She throws me an apologetic look before sauntering over the small group gathered at the entrance. A couple, or siblings, and another woman, probably their secretary. Why is there a shadow behind Luke? Is the ghost following him? Because remember that in Zach's chapter 2, Luke came out of the house and he had this like dark aura around him. So like maybe the ghost girl is like following them. And I mean, she was also hanging around Hannah too, so I don't know, maybe because they do look like the old owners of the mansion. Either way, they look no different from the other guests. All three of them primly dressed, albeit in a manner significantly simpler than the others, no frills, no extravagance of any form. But their gestures and movements alone speak volumes of their ingrained lifestyle. In their presence, I do what I can to appear inconspicuous on my side of the foyer. Maybe accepting Mrs. Cooper's offer would have been a much better choice than standing around awkwardly and gaping at them, all while also attempting my best not to listen in on their conversation. Although that one proves more difficult with how enthusiastic the blonde woman is, her voice easily echoes through the halls with only the 5 of us here. Pretty soon, I find myself being drawn into their talk without meaning to.
Tomorrow? First thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, ma'am.
The mundane talk isn't what catches my attention, however.
Very well. We'll have our lawyers prepare everything as soon as possible. Let's make this whole thing easier for everyone, shall we? Just let me know if there's anything you need from me. You know how to contact me, yes?
Got your mobile number saved here already.
Good. It's just a matter of time then.
It's a brief moment, a fleeting shift of my eye.
Monday for us, Marianne.
As long as you're positive, we won't be having any problems by that time. You can count on my team.
Oh, I totally forgot to check out Rebecca's branching tree. Okay, let's see how long it is. Whoa. Dude, look at all these, like, different paths, man. Oh my god. She has a really freaking long chapter. Oh, we completed 46% of Marianne's chapter. Oh, Zachary's, we completed 38. For some reason, it was showing up just 3%. Okay. Alright, Rebecca. Well, let me go back where I'm at right now. Okay.
You worry too much. Let me handle those things. Do be thrilled, though. I imagine it's not every day you get projects like this,
And the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it.
Oh, I'm certain Mint's ecstatic, Buttercup. Aren't you, Marianne? You know, we could all celebrate this with a few drinks. Why don't we?
Blonde bloke.
In fact, there's this really excellent Irish pub I visited a few days ago.
Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. A dark blur. No, a shadow.
I think I'll pass on that, sir. I have more important matters to attend to.
Darling, your liver.
What's happening?
You already had a glass today, and apparently a few days ago as well. How many times do we have to remind you? Doctor's orders, remember?
What a shame. You never let me do anything fun.
But as I try to make sense of it, a heavy feeling descends over my whole body. It happens without warning, forcing me to close my eyes. The sensation creeps to every part of me, crawling under my skin and draining me little by little of any strength. Before I know it, my hand is gripping the nearby door for support. The sudden nausea drowns out their voices. Okay, that's what was happening. And what little sound there is. All except for the whispers and laughters. Judging. Mocking. Taunting. Muffled, inaudible words bearing down on me like a death sentence. They wrap around my neck and limbs, binds tightening with every syllable, every utterance. And with each draw of breath I take, they drag me down slowly, almost painfully, into a bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, till the sound turns into mere distant echoes. Until suddenly it shatters.
Well, what are we waiting for? Are we done here?
His voice rips through the fog like a sharp blade and my eyes snap open. When I look to them again, it's gone.
Just a second, darling. Send my regards to Isabel, please. Poor girl. Please let her know she doesn't have to worry and tell her to get some rest.
Oh, Hannah's so nice.
Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Likewise, ma'am.
No shadows or dark clouds. Only amicable smiles and cordial handshakes, the usual pleasantries, as Miss Cooper leads them out of the mansion like a graceful host. None of the group seems to have noticed it, and even as I force my breathing to calm down, keep my eyes trained on their backs, and wait for something to happen, it doesn't come back. She returns a moment later. Gently, she closes the great doors behind her, but there's a smile on her lips and an extra skip in her step when she walks back to me. Whatever she was discussing with the group had put her in a good mood. Even she appears to have not observed anything odd. Was I just seeing things?
Glad that was over. It's been a long day. I thought for sure we were going to... Hey, are you sure you're doing okay? You look a bit green.
It's all good. I'm actually still recovering from a cold. Weather's been crazy lately.
That must be it. The weather, the stupid cold, and the friendly warnings I'm too stubborn to listen to. As much as I hate to admit it, Isabella's right. I was and still am a little feverish when she visited me at school this morning. The medicine helped, of course, but only some. Although it's not like I can't function. It did get better after lunch, and I was able to go through my schedule like the usual. Now I'm not so sure. However, I can't keep acting like I've seen some sort of apparition when it's anything but. I simply must have listened too many times to Isabella last week. My fever-muddled mind has started to confuse things. If this doesn't let up, I just need another visit to my doctor. Plain and simple. Though I do hope it won't get worse. We did promise to watch Zachary's film together.
I know what you mean. I've been complaining to Isabel. It doesn't seem to affect her much, though. Must be because she grew up in the tropics. Anyway, shall we? She's probably hanging out with the rest of the catering staff.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised she's there. She eats like 10 hungry men when she isn't feeling well. Lead the way.
With a small nod, she gestures for me to follow. I do so without much thought, finally putting everything in the back of my mind. Okay, it's still the afternoon. The entire visit took a whole 24 minutes, and my trip to the mansion, as it turns out, is a useless endeavor in itself. Wait, where is it? Oh, did I just pass it up? Oh, here it is. While waiting at the mansion, Rebecca overheard a brief conversation between the Wright couple, their interior designer, and estate agent, Rose Cooper. It was discovered afterwards that Isabella had already left a few hours ago. Aww, a little drawing of Rose here. I don't like it that she died. I really don't. Isabella's no longer there, left shortly before I arrived. Or at least, that's what the few staff who saw her assumed. None of them knew where she went, but I can take a few guesses. There are only a number of places in Luxbourne she frequents, and, well, she's never been the complex kind. It doesn't really take a genius to figure it out. Still, it's odd she left on her own. She could have, at least, waited for Miss Cooper. It would have saved her having to pay the cab's fare twice today.
And right after she was told to stay put! I mean, who does that? Oh, sod off!
Whoa.
You don't know the road!
Dang, Rebecca, are you one of those angry drivers? In the end, all Miss Cooper could give me were a string of apologies for my trouble and a request to let her know when I find Isabella. The whole affair didn't even last long. I probably spent more time traveling back and forth. Soon enough, I'm weaving my way back to downtown Luxbourne, worried sick, and on top of that, maybe a little annoyed. Whether at the unexpected turn of events or at Isabella herself, I'd rather not think about it for now. Not when I'm already running late for Zachary's film. Besides, I'm perfectly sure that's where I'll find her. Now we're at the Luxbourne Movie House. As one would expect, people are already gathered at the movie house when I get to it. The small avenue where it's located has been closed off early from any passing traffic to make way for the avid moviegoers who are sure to crowd the venue. I have to park almost a street away and walk the remaining distance because of it. Looking for them has taken a while in a crowd this big, but I eventually spot them near the entrance. Thanks to Zachary, mostly. And like I've surmised, Isabella's with them.
I knew it.
Wasting no time, I march over their little group. Words filled with concern tumble out of my mouth before I can stop myself.
Isabella! Oh, thank goodness! Becca, you're just in time.
An odd expression crosses her face as I hold it with both hands, but I ignore it in favor of getting a good look at her, forcing her to keep still and fix her gaze at me.
Becca, you're squishing my face. How are you? Are you all right? Why wouldn't I be?
There doesn't seem to be any visible injury, nor does she appear to be in pain. Apart from her confused frown at my questions, she looks pretty much like how she would any other day. Even so, you can't really tell those things with her at first glance. The last time she got sick, she never bothered to call anyone, even me, who lives right next door. If I hadn't checked on her then, she probably would have died on her bed with the rest of us none the wiser. It's one thing we laugh about now, but moments like those also teaches you something about a person. If anything, it has given me more of a reason to constantly worry about her. And the moment a familiar name comes up, I know my concerns right now aren't completely baseless.
Rose called me earlier.
Her expression swiftly changes, and gently as she can, Isabella pushes my hands away. Yet even before she says anything, I already have a hunch how this whole thing will play out.
Oh, no, everything's good. Rose covered for me at work today.
That's not what I'm talking about. How's your head?
Then and there, the whole conversation goes down as I've imagined. Oh! God dang, you're like a ninja, girl! She dodges my hand when I reach for the back of her head. Intending to check the said injury myself, she makes a show of hiding behind Zachary just to avoid me. Instantly, what's supposed to be a simple inquiry dissolves into a shameless game of tag. Shouting and chasing, like none of us can be bothered to act like the full-grown adults we're all supposed to be. Including Ashton. I won't put it past Isabella, but Ash, out of everyone? In fact, if that stupid smirk on his face tells me anything, he finds this whole mess amusing. Oh, for the love of...
Isabella, this isn't a laughing matter.
She did look pale when I saw her.
Wow, thanks a lot, Ashton, you traitor. I'll get you back for this, just you wait.
What? I'm just saying it as it is. If you mentioned this earlier, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
There's a moment's pause. My hand's still midair as my attention shifts to Ashton and the words he leaves hanging between the four of us. He doesn't meet my eye. I don't think he's even aware of what he said. But the meaning in each syllable alone is clear. And they echo. They sting. They burn.
I'm sorry. Saw her?
Yeah, they arrived together. Bella looked fine to me then. I don't know.
Of course. Of course. Why else would Isabella leave on her own after being told to stay put, after that little chat about money this morning? Something close to silence falls while I mull over their words, both what's already been said and what's left unspoken. When I do find my voice, it only reeks with nothing but bitter, unpleasant thoughts. Thoughts I quickly stamp out before they surface. Thoughts I hide the best I can in the deepest parts of my mind, locking it away for no one to see.
Oh, that's good. At least she didn't have to travel alone, right? At least. Good.
This is so weird seeing it from Rebecca's perspective. Yet, try as I might, the green-eyed monster easily rears its ugly head. Like it always does every time his gaze lingers a second longer. Every time he smiles in a manner far too gentle, far too sincere, whenever he thinks no one can see. Every time my mind suggests his words mean more than they should. Every small, little thing. despite what he says, despite his tone.
Look, you guys.
For all I know, it may just be the same kind of fondness born from friendship. Maybe I'm simply overthinking like he often tells me, or maybe there really is something there. But in a short display of impatience, I know the whole of it is just for show. After all, growing up together with him didn't teach me nothing about him. For whose sake it is this time, though? For him? For Zachary? For her? Or for me? That I can't tell.
If she says she's okay, then there's nothing we can do about it. It's not like we can stop her either. Besides, she's still acting like the same old Isabella to me, if she can still run around like that.
Why are you taking her side?
I'm not. But if she wants to watch Zach's movie with us, I'm not going to stop her. She's probably the one looking forward to it the most.
Ash, that's... You, of all people, should know...
Tell you what, if I notice something amiss with her, I'll take her to the nearest hospital myself. Is that good enough for you?
My mouth opens, then snaps shut almost as quickly, forming a thin, hard line instead. I can't respond, not because there's nothing to say. On the contrary, there's plenty, so many things I can use to reason and get him to agree. But because he speaks with much certainty, with much reassurance, it feels like there isn't even a choice. All I can give is a long, deep breath and a reluctant nod in the face of it. Before I can get a grip of myself and my own weakness, the mood immediately shifts and I'm being tackled into a hug.
Thanks, Becca.
It's always been you with him, isn't it?
Did you say something?
Me? Nothing. Don't mind me.
A lie, obviously. What else can it be? Each and every smile, a tiny effort to keep things as they are, or so I tell myself. Little do I know, this is merely a preamble. It starts out quietly, and without fanfare, amidst friendly jibes and harmless teasing, with a scrap of paper fluttering harmlessly to the ground. One that looks suspiciously like a cheap Halloween prank, no matter how you look at it. And yet, despite how ludicrous it all is, Isabella stubbornly insists, as if our whole life depends on acknowledging the truth in her story. Does she even realize how absurd she sounds now? Crivens, even my students wouldn't fall for this.
Isabella, aren't you taking this a bit too far?
She doesn't give me the time to regret, nor think over my choice of words. From there, it escalates, grows into an argument too petty even for our standards as adults. Before we know it, one after another, harsh, scathing words are being spoken.
It's not a joke! Will you guys listen to me first? I saw something in the house earlier. It stood right in front of me. If I hadn't gotten away, that thing might have...
Right. And in broad daylight, Isabella. Even someone gullible would find the logic in that screwed up.
There's also no way in hell that this supernatural shit is true.
But it's real! What do you think I saw?
A hallucination? A delusion? Didn't you say you fell down some stairs? So maybe Rebecca's right.
It happened after, when I was trying to get away. I almost got stuck in the same room with that thing. We're all in danger. I thought you were my friends. Why don't you believe me?
But someone has to be patient in all this, and however much my own has already been frayed earlier, there's no one else. Who else here can deal with someone selfishly acting like a kid? Like every other time, it has to be me.
We are, and you know that. But this thing and that thing has got nothing to do with the other. When Rose called earlier, I thought she's just exaggerating. But based on what I'm seeing right now, maybe it's better if we really postpone this for now.
Don't bother.
Just like that, she cuts us off. Slams the door right on our faces while my own temper flares before I can stop it. Although it falters briefly at the hard expression on her, when she snatches the blasted paper from Ashton, I hold on to it. Regardless of how upset she appears, soured expression and balled fists, throwing a tantrum is simply unacceptable. For a grown woman at that. Words form at the tip of my tongue, ready. But before I can open my mouth and let it all out, her feelings and mistakes be damned, Zachary raises a voice of his own.
Guys!
A warning, underneath the warm and hopeful beat in his voice. We all stop and look to him, and even my own anger subsides a little at his tone.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need. And hey, ain't this supposed to be a happy get-together?
Why do I always get freaked out whenever Zach says that line? I did that the first time too.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need to be hard on her. And hey, ain't this supposed to be a happy get-together?
To an outsider, it may sound like a desperate request, but Zachary has always been the one to keep a level head over petty squabbles. This time's no different. He knows what to say, and when he lets it fall, they only ring sharp and true.
We haven't seen each other for months. I'd really love to know what y'all have been up to. I only ever get to talk to Bella over chat. Please.
And as careful as he is with his own tone, it does make me feel ashamed. We're supposed to be here for him, to give what little support we can give, yet here he is, trying to keep 3 stubborn people from outright hashing it out in public. Later, we can and will talk about it, of course. There's a proper time and place for it, and at the moment, my anger and whatever reprimands it carries no longer matter. Beside me, Ashton appears to have already caught on. The lines of his shoulders ease into something much more relaxed, his expression back to its usual nonchalance. Isabella, however, she stands perfectly still, her hands clasping the straps of her bag like a lifeline, eyes trained at some point near her shoes. There's no anger in her face, only an undeniable hurt. But she's never been good at hiding what she thinks, always the open book, always the one to wear her heart out in the open. And when she looks up, her answer is also as simple.
If we keep arguing here, we're going to miss the first few minutes.
Her lips are curled in a smile, though lacking both its usual brightness and glee, it's a smile nonetheless. I've seen it countless of times. It's the very same one she would show when she knows she has no other choice, or simply when things get tough for her. But despite everything I already know about her, it still catches me off guard. In all honesty, I expected her to run, to balk at the first sign of losing this time. I won't even be surprised. At 26, she is the youngest among the rest of us, less experienced, less accustomed to dealing with trivial quarrels like this. Yet, here she is, holding herself and coping with it like how she would with matters concerning her family. Outside of that, to me, she has always been this childish, naive girl, and watching the opposite play out right now, somehow, I find it difficult to wrap my head around it.
All right, that's the Isabella I know.
Oh, good. I thought for sure you were going to cry.
But I envy her.
What was that for?
Stop calling me a crybaby! I'm not one!
Aw, don't cry.
Stop it!
I envy her spirit, her warmth, her cheer, the shine in her eyes when she looks at the world. How everything seems to simply fall back to a pleasant, lively rhythm with her around. How easily and tightly she fits into our lives, even without bonds only long years could forget, like a lost piece of a puzzle, despite her jagged edges. How she draws people to her with ease. How Ashton, of all people, can be drawn to her.
Okay, scaredy cat then.
That too! If you repeat that, I swear I'll...
You scaredy cat.
Let's just go.
I make no effort keeping the bitterness from my tone. I let it seep, linger stiffly in the air as I avert my gaze from them. From their playful banter, their friendly teasing remarks, and Ashton's tender, affectionate smiles, all before the stabbing aches in my heart change into something too painful to bear. It's all in my head, is what I'd often tell myself. Yet the way my heart rends at just the sight of them hurts. And like a coward, I walk away from all of it, taking with me a small hope the movie will distract me away from these thoughts. Because, like this, it's easy to find something to hate in her. Wow, Rebecca's inner dialogue, man. That's what I was afraid of. First time playing this, I was like, that's going to be a problem. Two friends liking the same person. Or, even if Isabella isn't aware of her feelings towards Ashton, and obviously we know that Ashton likes Isabella, but having Rebecca have feelings for Ashton, but he's not reciprocating those feelings, or even Rebecca hasn't even told him her feelings. So, it's going to make people very bitter, and, it makes another person hate you. Just because they're like, well, why is he showing her affection? And it's like jealousy and all this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, she's starting to resent Isabella because she knows that Ashton likes her. So, dusk has already given way tonight when we leave the film fest. Unfortunately, it does nothing to improve my mood like I'm hoping. Neither does the muggy air that greets us upon stepping back into the noisy streets. Too busy. Too loud. Too many people taking what little space the sidewalk offers. It forces anyone to bump shoulders with those they barely know, let alone care about. On a normal evening, I probably wouldn't have minded the crowd, nor the humid weather. It's not like any of them are bothering anyone. And yet, even with what's adamantly a pleasant company, I can't bring myself to lighten up.
See you guys some other time.
Yeah. See ya!
Not even to return the smiles Ashton and Zachary gives us when we go our separate ways. Perhaps this started with Miss Cooper's call or earlier than that. Maybe even the moment I left bed this morning. Bloody hell, it could have been because of that sodding letter for all I know. I couldn't care less at this point. All I want is to get a warm bath, sleep, and wait for this dreadful day to end. Now, if only Isabella would stop babbling, then maybe the still throbbing at the side of my head won't turn into a full-blown headache, too.
Zach did a pretty good job with his movie, didn't he? Even though Ash said he ran into some trouble late into filming. But I knew he had it in him. It's not like I didn't believe he couldn't do it. I mean, did you see his face after the credits rolled? All those months he worked on this, and everything's finally...
You weren't even watching.
Only the first minutes. I watched the rest of it, I swear. Besides, Ashton was the one who wouldn't stop asking questions.
Well, why do we still need to talk about this then? I liked it. Ash liked it. You liked it.
Jesus, Rebecca.
Shouldn't you be telling that to Zachary in person? I'm sure he'll appreciate it better than I ever will.
Damn.
I know that, but maybe there's something you want to say?
Yeah, it's her freaking resentment. It just completely, it's making her into a bitter, sour person. I mean, she's saying that she cares about her friends, and she worries about Isabella, and she's supposed to be her best friend, but it's that resentment from Ashton liking her is just really coming out,
Zach had you check the scripts before he went through everything, didn't he? You also worked on it, even if it was only for a short time. So, maybe you want to...
I don't bother waiting for the rest. The moment I spot my car, I immediately make a quick beeline for it. Dang, you're just cutting her off and just running away from her? Knowing her, this is merely another attempt at starting a conversation, just so we'll have something to fill the dead air, to replace the strained atmosphere we've somehow walked into. Jeez. One thing, the very thing, I'm not too keen to deal with at present. Behind me, Isabella also changes her pace to match mine, her soft strides growing brisk and uneven in order to catch up. A small part of me half expects she'll suddenly trip. Jeez! Damn. Being all salty, Rebecca. She's not the clumsy sort, but there are definitely times when she can be the least coordinated person on the planet.
Becca, hey! Oh no. Wait for me!
And people wonder why I worry. No one's telling you to worry about people. They're not really completely unfounded once you've already grown familiar with their habits, though right now this is also at the very end of the list of things I want to think about. Sometimes it does become overbearing. Even her voice as she calls after me sounds nothing more than background noise to my ears now.
Rebecca, slow down, will you? Your car's not going to leave without us.
The sooner we get on the road, the earlier we can get home. It's Friday, in case you didn't notice.
I know what day it is, but the traffic's not going to magically disappear, even if we go there right now.
I don't want to hear that from you. Didn't you used to complain how horrendous the traffic is back home for you?
Yeah? But that doesn't have anything to do with this, Becca.
Okay. What do you want to do then? Wait it out? Walk? I just want to go home, Isabella. If you want to stay out here longer, I won't stop you. But leave me out of it. I'm not up for any other foolish excursions tonight.
I wasn't thinking about an excursion. I want to go home too. It's already late. It's just that you've been in this prickly mood since earlier. Are you really okay? Was it the cold? Or did something happen at school? Do you want to talk about it?
A long pause follows, and it holds everything she's been meaning to ask from the very start. I'm in no mood, but all the same, my hand stops short of unlocking my car, and my grip on the handle tightens. I can feel her eyes boring on me, waiting, hoping patiently for any answers I'd give. She's the same as Zachary. They're bad liars. But when you talk to people like them, if you're not careful, they often leave you with no other choice but to admit the truth, those exact same ones I can't voice. Despite my lack of response, she pushes on, surprisingly. This time her tone is quieter, more tentative than usual.
Was it because of the letter?
It's a well-meaning question, much like the rest of this talk, yet something in how she says it irks me.
If it is, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I did see something in the mansion, though. I wasn't lying about that.
Wherever she wants to take this, I no longer want to hear a word of it, not at this minute, preferably never. Especially when there's already a million other things buzzing and prodding inside my head. Sometimes my patience can only be tried for so long. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna be nice to Isabella and cut her a frickin' break, okay? Because she frickin' ran into a frickin' ghost lady, almost frickin' killed her. She fell down the stairs, hit her frickin' head. Just because you're being bitter and salty about how Ashton is, you know, treating her or likes her, whatever, doesn't mean you gotta be a frickin' asshole, right? So this cold caught up with me. I think. Is that the right answer?
And during the open house, even if there were a lot of people around, there were weird things happening.
Oh, it went down with Ashton? Why? Okay. I don't know. Okay. I wonder why it went down with Ashton.
I don't know if there was anyone else who noticed, but I heard things. I'm sure it wasn't because I fell down the stairs. Even before that, in the attic,
Isabella.
Yeah?
A pause, though I don't let it last, only to give myself a small window to breathe before I lay down the words between us with as much restraint my patience allows, which is not much after everything. I can only hope Isabella will simply take them as they are. She can be stubborn as a mule when she wants to be.
This kind kind of conversation tonight. Look, it's been a long day. I think this cold also caught up with me, and I'm really exhausted. Can we talk about this some other time?
She blinks, and although disappointment flashes momentarily in her face, she gives me a curt nod. A relief enough for me, perhaps the first time, I genuinely feel it today. As unpleasant as this day has been, seeing something go the way I've anticipated takes the edge out of it. Even if flying through my teeth had to go with it.
Oh, alright. You should have just said so. I told you should have taken a full week off. Were you able to get the meds I brought you, though? Do you need anything? I could drop by the pharmacy for you.
Oh, she's being so sweet, too.
Yeah, no need to fuss. A good night's sleep is all I need. I've been busy the whole day. I guess I should have listened to you and taken it easy. But we have exams to prepare for. It's one or the other, you know?
I knew it! Here I thought you were just upset about something. Even Ash looked a little bit worried about you.
It's fine. Let's just head home, okay? I'll make it up to you next time. Call me out to lunch or wherever, just... not right now.
Okay, but should you be driving? If you want, I can call a taxi for us. You'll hate paying the extra fees, but you'll be able to get some rest on the way home.
No, don't call a cab. I can manage driving at least. Just get in the car so we can be on our way.
I'm already opening the door and climbing into the seat before she can protest. Left with no other choice, she follows inside shortly, albeit with a bit of reluctance. The guilt from this will eat at me later, but for now, these little falsehoods are mine to bear and hide under. For now, this is the better choice. Better than pretending she doesn't exist or giving her vague answers. Certainly better than harsh words and outright lashing out at her. I can find a little comfort in that. Evening now. Thankfully, if there's anything left to be spoken between us after, we won't have to discuss it on the way home. Or rather, we can't. Because no sooner than we hit the road, Isabella dozes off. Oh, is that her snoring? Despite my foul mood, I still end up suppressing a laughter once the first sound of her breathing fills the car.
Mama?
Not your mom, Isabella.
Slow and steady, the quiet rhythm so completely unlike her, so far removed from every impression anyone has of her. A few faint whimpers will occasionally come from her, but otherwise it's just us, this silence, and it's so utterly unexpected. Still, a welcome break, of course. Peace and quiet is one thing you'll rarely get with her around. Yet, it's nowhere near comforting. It merely lends the air this strange clarity, every little sound, every little movement more palpable. And with it comes the unease. A jolt of surprise hits me. It's almost comical if this were a different situation. In my haste, I accidentally dislodge my mobile from its seat on the dashboard when I swipe on the screen. Soon, I'm scrambling blindly for it with my other hand while keeping a steady eye on the road ahead. A voice crackles from the loudspeakers before I can put it back. Although muffled heavily by the surface, I recognize the person on the other line from her chipper tone alone.
Hello? Miss Cooper?
Oh, you're still awake. Evening. I hope I didn't disturb you or anything. I know it's a bit late. Sorry about that. I just want to check on you and Isabella. That girl's still not answering her mobile. Were you able to meet up with her?
Yes. She's with me. We're on our way home.
Hello? What was that again? I can't hear you properly.
Sorry. Let me just fix this dumb phone.
My hand stops dead for a moment. I spare the device a brief glance, waiting. Seconds pass. Nothing happens, though. Frankly, I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but the lines of my mouth forms into a frown regardless.
Miss Cooper? Yes, still here.
Did you say something?
Just that I didn't get the last part. What were you saying again?
She's kind of cutting out.
No, I thought you... Never mind. Must be the signal acting up. Come again?
What?
Is everything all right over there?
Certainly. Is something wrong? What wouldn't? Okay, you seem to be busy. If this is a good time, I can just call you back some,
Kinda does sound like Rose's voice though, doesn't it? That's so creepy. I have to make a conscious effort not to panic right then and there, although my tight hold on the steering wheel tells a different story altogether.
Miss Cooper? Rose? Hey, Rose! Are you still there?
Only a burst of static answers me, and... Maybe this lapse is entirely because of exhaustion. It has been a long day, and I haven't fully recovered from last week's bout of the flu, contrary to what I've been telling people. Though perhaps, had I paid closer attention to it, had I not been so occupied with other thoughts, I probably would have noticed earlier that it never came from my phone, but from somewhere right behind me. Oh, hell no. Oh my god, I don't like this. Time slows to a crawl. Looking up is a mistake. The first thing I see is a face, a ghastly shade, every inch battered, bruised, and bloodied. Even in the darkness and the world passing by in a blur of lights outside, I can still make out the wounds. Blood still oozes from it, little trails of crimson running down its face, glistening under what little light there is. But it is in the gleam in its eyes that catches mine. The quiet plea, the anguish, and the desperation in them, more than its hideous features and the awful stench of gore now soaking the air. And try as I might, I can't bring myself to look away. Even as its lips contort into a horrific smile. Even as a sharp, harsh noise pierces the air and the silence around us. Oh, you twitching, girl?
Rebecca!
Ah! God dang it!
Huh? Car! Eyes on the road!
She gonna jump at me? Everything against I've been taught, and I've constantly reminded myself, I close my eyes. Oh my god! It's a brief moment. A short, vivid second of muscle memory and instinct completely take over. And if I didn't allow it, if my hands didn't move, or my feet didn't hit the brakes, in that exact second, I might have... Isabella and I might have... No. I shake the notion away before I lose myself in it. Right now, it's an ugly line of thought I refuse to venture into, not when breathing is a struggle, and every ounce of strength has been totally drained from my body. Most definitely not while Isabella's panicked voice beside me still rings in my ears. We're alive. We're safe. That's all that matters. But it is not her face that I look for when I finally open my eyes. All gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the covers to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains in me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there's none. Or was there really something in there in the first place? Rebecca, you just seen her at the back of your freaking car. Oh, I don't think it was there. Oh, man, I'm just imagining things. Ugh. With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again. Yeah, it's my flu. Makes me see bloody, random women sitting in the back of my car.
I
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my sides, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds an erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me, and little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and a voice, no longer the indistinct ringing it was earlier.
Rebecca? Becca, are you okay? Answer me, will you? You're scaring me. You know what? I think we should just call a taxi since...
Can you keep it down?
Strained, harsh, and completely unintentional. But with heat prickling at the back of my eyes and the mild throbbing at my temple, I could honestly do with a little silence for now.
Keep it down? We almost crashed, Becca!
Yeah, exactly. She's like, shut up! Even though I almost crashed the car, just shut up!
I know what happened. It was a lapse. I'm sorry.
A lapse? You call that a lapse? Becca, I really don't want to end up a mangled mess on the side of the road. Or a mangled mess anywhere. All I'm asking, if the time ever comes, which I hope isn't right now, is a peaceful death. Give that one to me at least. Not that I'm asking for it, but please.
Isabella. Belle, you're overreacting. If you're so worried, why don't you drive?
Don't have a license.
I keep telling you to get one, didn't I? For the past 5 years. Do you see why now?
I wasn't really expecting to stay here this long. I thought it'd just be for a year or two.
All of a sudden, a pensive mood comes over her. Isabella looks away then, while what's left on my little lecture never crosses the tip of my tongue. I don't allow it to, because in each of those words she lets loose earlier is a small truth. Her stay has always been meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home. It's what she'd tell herself during her first year here. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And if there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way, even if I already have a hunch, it's one thing I'll never bother to ask. Those are hers to keep.
I'll be careful this time, I promise. Just please, can we give this whole thing a rest for now?
She nods, and that's the end of it. We spend the rest of the trip back to Samwell in silence. I like the little elevator music in the background. Alright, where is it? After watching Blue Sea, Isabella tried making small talk with Rebecca, but the latter was in a prickly mood and was not interested. On their way home, Rebecca glimpsed something suspicious sitting in the back seat of her car. All thoughts of an overactive imagination, playing tricks on a flu-addled mind, and of smiles never meant for my eyes, abandoned, if only for a brief moment. October 25th, Tuesday. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking earlier than usual because of it. And no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'd take a day off or two because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, hold on, wait. What was it, the 25th now? Okay, so this is the day where I think last night was the day that October 24th was the day that she went over to Zach's, right? In the morning? Yeah. Okay. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are, around this hour, she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her siblings for school. It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far I've lived a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades, if it gained Mum and Da's approval, or what we'd be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in a form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Oh, so this is when she must have gotten the housewarming party letter. Because she knows Hannah, because her and Hannah were friends as children, right? Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose when she sees this. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. As if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface will be enough to put a crease on it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I've received one. Most of the time, it's not even for me, so who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new, then.
Mr. Alistair and Mrs. Alyssa Gales. Their years in the academy naturally brought it with various connections, people from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they, in turn, treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Da are proud of, rightfully so. I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here. The real one. So it kind of seems like Rebecca's like kind of the jealous type. You know, she wants approval from her parents. You know, they would teach other people and they would be grateful to them. And it just kind of seems like she is jealous of that as well. She's jealous of, you know, Isabella and how Ashton acts towards her. So I don't know. Not that of it's any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provided for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's as small a thing as letting them know they've got another mail waiting for them. God damn it, phone, you keep popping up and scaring me. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum. Her voice is warm as I remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Huh?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Yeah, I was like, why did I keep reading Da? Like,
oh no, is it bad?
I guess that's what she calls her dad.
right? In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm all right. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah, blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at the moment, I can't recall when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hannah.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as the family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Da are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away on some meeting or symposium, sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that's how I've become independent at such an early age. They always praise me for that. At times, I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But, they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mum's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule.
Schedule? My schedule.
It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do.
So yeah, Ash is investing in the rights because we've seen him at that party. And I was wondering, I was like, well, it makes sense that Rebecca's here now and, Zach, but why is Ashton here?
If not, I can always bring Isabella with me.
Or maybe Rebecca
You
does
know
ask
her.
him.
She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
Sorry, I'll go back since I was kind of talking.
If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see see her once we're back in the city. Leave her a number or something.
I will.
But you know, the two of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy, to some extent. Mom must have sensed my confusion because she laughs.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having two daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then. A hearty one, tender and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is a part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes, even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago. When life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds. If given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it, though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. Hold on, let's see how far we gotten in the branching tree. Ooh, not very far. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. And with a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit. It's never a good example to set. So, with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for the day, my car keys in hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet and everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning. No need to wear a smile on your face lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop, and a frown gradually forms in my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday, before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direct circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary, Ashton, and I, that has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night in deference, but perhaps today might be the proper time to check on her?
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly so I don't disturb her, in case she's sleeping and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today? Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then I'm fishing out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago, after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I've simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for her answer, I push the door open and step inside. In the morning. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, papers strewn about everywhere, and an unkept bed, among other things. This much is a given, will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human being with the place in this state. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual. But she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. It doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning. Another habit, and it can only mean she hasn't been here since. Last night? Perhaps even since the morning after Miss Cooper's death? Either idea doesn't sit well with me, what with the news we've been hearing lately.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims.
Anson Butcher case going cold again? BRC, no comment on employees' deaths. Ooh.
Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death.
Okay, so now they actually are being found dead, so they're not disappearances anymore, like they're actually being found, right?
Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Yeah. Gather my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. Frickin' phone. Rebecca Gales received a housewarming invitation addressed to her parents that morning. After informing them about it, she checked Isabella's apartment and was shocked to find that she hadn't come home last night. It rings for a good minute, the sound a comfort in itself, but when another minute rolls by without her answering... Well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bounce of temper, maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when speaking. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, a sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last long, though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much they give each other grief. That already says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour, he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon, a click, then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one. Did you call us early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick. I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that...
She's like, I'm trying to sleep, Rebecca. Leave me alone, girl.
Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit. Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that.
He's cute when he's like half asleep.
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting a hard surface and a string of rather colorful curses from him. Ah! Oh my god, that freaking scream. The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly in the next few days, if things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Oh yeah, just don't mind me screaming like a girl, you know, whatever.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension is gone from my shoulders and my breathing has eased. The bed creaks as I sink down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early, but for now, relying on the latter for this isn't the wrong choice. I just noticed like her little like bat cat stuffy and the little sheep stuffy. I want the sheep stuffy. It's so cute. I want it so much. I'd be like, bah. With the stuffy. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. And true to his words, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know.
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
Okay, I give Rebecca a little bit of props for this because she's the only one that will bring it up to Ash, like, why do you keep calling her Scaredy Cat? You're the only one that does it.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
Okay. It sounds like a lie if I've ever heard one. The sort where he admits things so people won't fret, and I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite and after all the trouble he went through, with how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. What should I say? I guess sorry for the trouble? I recognize his concern for what it is. Okay, so we're at least at his, line. Holy crap, we're just still have a little bit with Isabella. Jeez. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us, and to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would have loved to take this off his hands, it'll only be selfish of me to insist, considering he knows of my other commitments. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough. On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
We both laughed, the sound lighter and more comfortable. Like the old days, when a wayward 26-year-old is at the bottom of the list we need to worry about. This is how we find a common ground. We may not argue on a lot of things. We may see things the way the other does, but the give and take is something we've learned to get used to over the years. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him is the least I can offer as thanks.
Really, thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise. I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit, the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that, so many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he'd simply lay them all out in the open, because like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait, go about my day, and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, my concerns are best left here. In the afternoon now at St. Grady High School. The rest of the day slips away in a blur. Despite my best efforts in keeping this morning's event from surfacing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems. I blame the news entirely for this. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention, mostly superstitious talk of death. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up that mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse than when it was put back up on the market. Now, there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters, or simply because the atmosphere around this time of year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. At least then, I can be sure people will forget about it in favor of another set of holidays after. Nevertheless, and this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. I hope he didn't forget. The school day is about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
You always hear stuff. I'm not sure if half of them's even real.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again.
Are they talking about the kids that were in the, in that little, camera recorder that Marianne found in the, cells?
No one knows what happened to them. Up to this day. Scary shit, man.
Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
You don't get it. Their talk immediately halts when I look up, all of them suddenly pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to put a stopper to this nonsense is needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, but reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes from it.
Back to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now. You'd all better stay away from it before...
Ah! The hell? At the noise, the whole lot of them go silent. You can almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made for a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If that is a student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk. Keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far more agreeable than feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. Class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will once again be filled with busy chatter and footfalls, an everyday cycle in itself. But for the moment, I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there are or there will be, searching for that distinct clanging of metal. A good minute passes, and for the portion of it, only my steps echo through the halls. And another. I'm about to turn around when... Ugh! The sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but grows louder after each interval. With the hallway devoid of people, if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll start to disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. I don't feel good about this. All I do is follow the racket, and shortly I'm standing in front of a nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. And from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes the noise, annoyingly disruptive now that I'm facing it. Like someone's pounding on the metal door from the inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I try to get a glimpse through the horizontal slats of whatever's causing it. But in this light, only darkness greets me and another round of clanging. Louder than previous one. More desperate. I've heard stories before, from other schools, from a few colleagues who had to deal with it once or twice. Although, personally, I've never encountered one myself, and I can only thank the heavens I haven't yet. But...
if this is another kid some other student stuffed in a locker...
With a huff, I straighten up and study it briefly with a frown. Without delay, I reach for its handle and... at once, it stops. Immediately replaced by the muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second. Another. When nothing or no one responds, I finally avert my eyes and I pull out my mobile. Ashton Voights greets me from the other end of the line, oddly cheerful in light of this morning's matters. Or maybe because I'm just expecting some grave or serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know that could be the reason for that tone: sweets or he's gotten a good lead in his case. From the sound of it, I'm going to assume it's the former, since, lately, that case is all that's running inside his head. If there's ever a third one, I never heard of it. Yet. It can only be one of the two.
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Drove her home a few minutes ago. I think she's sleeping now. Sorry this took a while. Z-Man gave us the puppy eyes after we tried to leave. Had some food prepared for us, apparently. We didn't have the heart to say no.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Could be.
It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
The word triggers a memory. From 3 days ago, on the way home from her little treat after she sold the mansion, I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie, it scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed.
Becca? Still there?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you?
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? You know how stubborn she can get. But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned tonight. As thanks.
No, I'm.
Just as thanks for all the trouble I've caused today.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
There's a short pause before he cuts the call from his end, and once again I'm alone with my thoughts. But rather than answers, all I got from it are questions, more of them, one on top of the other, as if the world isn't planning to give me a break anytime soon. But that's the problem I'll tackle later. Right now, I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping if the slightly open door and their smothered laughter from inside isn't an indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats.
Okay, it's baffling me right now that Rebecca just said like she thought like a person was stuck in the locker or something like that, and she just took a phone call. She's going back to her room and she's not gonna be like, hey, is there a student in there or something like that, you know what I mean? She just like, well, whatever, I got the flu, so.
Is that your boyfriend, Miss Gales?
None of your business.
He totally is.
What's up with that voice? He totally is. A quick scuffle follows that comment. If there's a retort prepared at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers sometimes, boisterous as they all are. They're still my kids, though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to my classroom with a smile, but not before taking a glance at the locker again. It hasn't made a sound since.
Oh, must be the wind.
Must be. So without another look, I leave it alone. Ah! God dang it! All in all, the entire school day ends without a hitch. Worried about her friend's behavior, Rebecca informed Ashton about Isabella's disappearance. It turned out that she spent the night at Zachary's, and Ashton offered to pick her up. Rebecca went to school after and had a strange encounter in the hallway with one of the student lockers. Alright guys, I'm going to end this episode right here. I'm still wondering what happened to Marianne in the cells down in the dungeon or whatever it is. It's so creepy too. Like, you know, with her friend showing up before her, and the ghost is just playing on their fears. So I think my theory is right in this. I just need to find out more information about the ghost, about the woman and the woman and her fiance that used to own the house, Charlotte, and her fiance. I don't even know his name. I forget it. So we still got to find out more about them, and we're just getting into Rebecca's chapter. So share the content. If you're enjoying my playthrough of the letter so far, please leave a like. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments, and make sure you subscribe and click that bell button so you know when I upload the next episode of the letter. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great night. Bye.